Hey y'all, what's happening? Let's get it crackin' on Sideway Media. Hey y'all, what's happening? Let's get it crackin'. Sideway Media. Sideway Media. Sideway Media.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm back again today. It's the Sackway Media Studio. It's your boy, the Buddha. Today, we're going to talk about underground training and coaching, the effects it takes on people's lives, kids, teenagers, adults. Today, I have Alex and Julia. They're going to be letting y'all know what's going on with the coaching, dance instructor, strength trainers. Alex, I'm going to let you take it away from here.
My name is D. Alexander, owner of Carmichael Underground Training. I've been a trainer for 20 years, and this is our first podcast episode. And I've got a friend here with me.
Hi, my name is Julia. I'm owner of the Movement Studio out in Fair Oaks, and I am also a coach, a trainer, a dance instructor, and I've been a teacher pretty much forever. Long time.
Sweet.
Hi.
I think we could start with just a little bit of our background. Good question to start with is, what did you always want to do when you were growing up, and are you doing that now?
I think I always wanted to be a creator and an innovator. I always loved dance. I think you came over to my house and you weren't going to play Barbies. We were going to learn the newest dance video on MTV or VH1. But yeah, absolutely. Like being a teacher and an entrepreneur and teaching dance, which is one of my biggest passions. So I definitely feel like I'm feeling very blessed.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Living your dream.
I am. I'm definitely living my dream. So how are you? Where are you on all that?
When I was younger, I wanted to be a professional athlete. So that's where my passion for it started. I'm actually wearing my high school jersey. Still doesn't fit me. So one of the topics we were talking about is growth. I maxed out in junior high, so physically I didn't grow any bigger. But
I got maxed out way earlier.
yeah, so accepted that. But I played competitively in junior high, high school, college, semi-pro. Still playing for fun now. But as a trainer, I've been doing that competitively now for 20 years, pushing myself to become a better athlete, better coach, better father, not just focused on sports. Now I have more people that are general population, just trying to not hurt and stay in good shape, stay motivated. So I made the transition from athlete to trainer after, I want to say I had 3 career-ending injuries, one in mixed martial arts, one in football, and then that kind of like opened my eyes and thought process to like all the stuff that I wasn't working on. So then, just went down the training rabbit hole.
So what would you say in terms of training is one of the biggest obstacles you've ever had to deal with?
Training myself or someone else?
Someone else.
Mental blocks would be one of the biggest things you have to deal with. Is there's an idea called personality conditioning. Sometimes you have to get people to do some stuff that's not in their nature to do. And that is something that's really tough for me, like very negative people. If I'm trying to get them to get to a certain goal, sometimes the way they speak to themselves will prevent them from getting to where they need to go.
Well, yeah, because words are, it's everything. So if you're constantly have this mindset of negativity, then you're not going to grow anyways. You're just going to be stuck.
Yep.
So, yeah, that is a pretty big part of coaching.
Yeah, when I started, I had no idea what to do with that. I would just get annoyed with the person and not want to train them.
I mean, that's a way you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not training you, or just didn't want to hang out with them. But that would probably be one of the most difficult ones. Other ones would be just be dealing with like situations that I've never dealt with. Like I've trained quadriplegics, paraplegics, people with cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy. And when they first bring it to my attention, I'm eager to learn and see if I could do anything that can help them accomplish any of their goals. Because usually when I'm meeting with someone, I'm thinking of top 3 goals. Usually fitness goals, but sometimes something in your personal life might spark you to become more motivated to show up to the gym more. Say you don't have the transportation you need or something. There's certain goals that are going to help get you to your fitness goals. Sometimes it's your living situation, a relationship. No matter what, we got to pick 3 goals and then knock those off the list within the first month or so. And everybody has completely different goals, and that usually if we could just figure out the first 3, we have like a good focus, and then we head in that direction.
So what do you feel about, like, in terms of coaching? I think one of the biggest challenges I've always dealt with is learning to adapt to, like, there's no one size that fits all. Everybody's different in terms of how they learn, how they pick up information, and then just like learning to adapt to all of that. So like not getting stuck in my head about like, this is what I'm teaching today, or this is my curriculum.
Yes.
Or this is the way I want to see them progress. And then being able to go, okay, that's definitely not working for them or for this dynamic, and pivoting, no pun intended. Just switching gears and going, okay, this is not working. So now I'm going to learn how to, create curriculum or training that is going to work for this individual or that individual or different levels.
I think that just came over time, because the way I train now is way more flexible than I used to be. And I guess just going through I have over 100,000 sessions trained, so have lots of trial and error and opportunities to get to know different personality types. But yeah, when I first started, I was very rigid. Coming from an athlete's background, I was impatient with people, specifically if they don't have a background in sports, are not disciplined. They complain a lot. Like a lot of the clients I have now, I probably wouldn't have clicked with when I was younger. But through every missed interaction with a client, I just take those personal notes and understand what was my role in the interaction, what was their role in the interaction. Like some of it I could have done better, some of it they could have handled better. And I've been pretty good about self-reflecting the whole process. And then, just back to the drawing board every time. Like in sports, you do film study after every game. So I kind of have that mentality when I'm done with the session, like what could I have done better? Like
backtrack, look at it.
Yeah, did we have a breakthrough?
Change.
And usually after about 3 weeks, if we're not seeing growth or progress, I like whatever I had planned out, crumple it up, throw it out. I'm going to make a new game plan.
So I think this is kind of like a good lead into like why we're actually here. Because we wanted to discuss the importance of coaching, training, and like how that can make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And then you just mentioned like at first you were coming out as that professional with not as much experience as a trainer and educator as you do now. Mm-hmm. And then now you have all of that. Like how important do you actually think that is? In terms of like, would you rather be trained by someone who's just this athlete who's never had any experience in teaching or education, or someone who has like a little bit of both? Like, what's your thoughts on all that?
Well, as far as being trained by an athlete, I think it's got its strengths and its weaknesses. If they've never trained someone else, they can only really let you know what works for them, what has worked for them, which will work for a lot of people. But for people that may not think like an athlete, which that is a thing, or don't have certain personality traits, which comes with being an athlete, you're kind of like developed and groomed over time. It's just sometimes it's not going to click. I think it's great to have a person that has a physical demeanor or like physical attributes and an experience in a sport you're trying to go into. Yeah, at first that'll get you in the door. You'll respect them, but then I feel like it doesn't matter who you are. If you don't have the ability to connect and adapt to the person you're working with, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, because I don't think teaching and coaching are the same as doing.
Yeah.
I think it's important that if you're coaching and teaching, that you're understanding like how to teach and coach. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't think that is something that just comes, some people, I think it does come naturally, but I do think like experience, number one, and constantly looking for ways to educate yourself, constantly being the student, learn,
Yeah.
different ways to engage. So,
What about for you on the flip side? I guess it would be like being coached by a dancer that has only danced, never had to coach someone, or vice versa, an instructor. Let's throw this like far to the other side that looks like they can't dance anymore. They're telling you all the right cues. Because I've seen a couple trainers that fit this mold. Trainers out of shape, has the knowledge. You might not respect them by the way they look and their habits, versus the one that looks the part but can't coach the part. I've seen.
I take the knowledge any day over the experience. I mean, I think that unfortunately in the dance industry, from what I've witnessed and experienced, is we have a lot of inexperienced teachers. There's not a lot of certification that comes with being a dance instructor.
Yeah.
You basically get hired. So the hiring criteria is usually you took dance classes somewhere at a studio. Unfortunately, you're dealing with training the human body, which is very complicated. So my thesis in my master's program was basically based in the fact that dancers have the highest injury rate in the industry, even worse than football. And a lot of that goes back to the fact that they're not being trained by people who understand how to train the body. Yeah, they're amazing dancers and they're great performers, but they really don't understand, progressions or pedagogy or any of those things that are really important. So if you ask me if I'd rather that professional just coming fresh out of, their season versus someone who maybe is a lot older and maybe physically they can no longer do this skill set, but they have knowledge in terms of how to get there, I definitely take the person who had the knowledge and experience and understood, sometimes most best teachers are not the best executors of the task. So, I don't know. I think that if you're going to train the body, whether it be through weight training or dance training, you should definitely have a background, some type of education in terms of how to teach, a way to teach, knowledge of anatomy, how the muscles, the joints, like how that all works. Because if you don't, you're going to end up hurting people. Or when you're training children that you're, training into be adults, you're going to end up causing them injuries and they're going to tap out in their 20s and, end up with hip surgeries and all these other things. So,
Yeah.
I personally think that education and training and knowledge is extremely important. And on
Yeah.
your side, you guys have to get certifications. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
like,
But I could really relate to what you were saying about like getting injured and tapping out in their 20s, because that's not exactly what I did, but I did have 3 really big injuries. Got carpal tunnel in both wrists and plantar fasciitis in both feet. Carpal tunnel was from improper lifting, like doing certain movements. I'd let my wrist buckle, and none of my coaches would correct me. And then the plantar fasciitis, that's just from running so much. But I would have liked to have had someone that was a little more experienced in training, not just football.
right.
Which, like, I was trained by some great football minds, or coached by some great football minds, and that's the distinction between coach and trainer. Coaching the game and training the body, 2 separate things, and we didn't really have the best trainers. We had great coaches.
Yeah, I had a friend who's a dancer, and he would always say his best coach was a football coach. And he really had no knowledge of dance, but he cross-trained them, in like football type training. And because of that, they were just stronger for it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I was blessed. I never had any injuries, but I played basketball. I did gymnastics. I did all these different sports. My basketball coach was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we trained. Like, his focus was training and conditioning. So, when I entered into the dance world, I already had a really solid foundation of, like, athletics and understanding of, the body, kind of. It's been a long journey. Like, now I definitely know a whole lot more than that. But,
So what's your experience since working with me? Because I know we've been working on building the Fitness Fusion class together. Just in your little bit of time coming from your background, coming into the gym, and let's say just working on activating your hamstrings and your glutes. And
it's huge. It's actually been everything, because my thesis was I was creating this power fusion method as a method of training dancers. And for the most part, I knew something was missing. I knew there was this gap. I knew that people were getting injured, but I really didn't know how to fix it. I had this huge knowledge of dance and how to be a teacher and pedagogy, but my knowledge of anatomy and weight training and that section of it just didn't exist. Yeah. So that's why I enrolled and started working on, my master's in kinesiology. But then you come along, and I went to Alex just to be like, get a personal trainer, so I didn't have to be accountable for it anymore. And I just knew I needed something different, and I needed to try something different. But the weird thing it was kind of turned out to be this missing piece of the puzzle of something I've been trying to figure out. And now already everything I've learned is that, number one, weight training is imperative. And that may be one of the missing elements of dance training. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just going to say, in my experience, I've never mixed a weight into my dance training up until now. And I've been dancing for years with no hamstrings, which is insane. So,
blows my mind.
And I didn't even know I knew that I was supposed to be using my hamstrings, but I didn't know how to engage them. And I kept thinking, I'm totally doing it. No, I was absolutely not doing it.
Yeah.
So muscle isolation, which is something I'm learning about, with the personal training, and then also in my, my program, is almost imperative, because it's what the difference between, an athlete, and I do believe dancers are athletes. I do not feel, they're definitely artists, but I think we have been kind of not treated as athletes, and then that's another reason why the injuries and the lack of that training hasn't been there. Yeah. And again, I'm just speaking from my own experience. I'm not trying to blanket the industry. I'm just saying, like, what I've seen, and then the research I've done to kind of try and figure out why are all these dancers being injured. So what's the problem?
Well, I got 2 things first, what's pedagogy?
So pedagogy is just like how you would teach something. Like,
Okay.
how am I going to approach this class? Am I going to use like visual aids? Am I going to teach with like more vocal and auditory? Like, it's kind of like how you approach teaching as an educator. Like, you know, am I going to adapt to this person's needs in this way or that way? Like, I'm doing it this way right now, but it's not working.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. Like, you know, or ways, and as a teacher like I teach K through 12, we're working with, 30, 40 kids in the same room. So there's all these dynamics, and you get very creative ways of like how you're going to teach something, like games and activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of,
Sweet.
you do it
Yeah.
all the time.
First job I ever
It's
had
just a
was
fancy word for it.
working in child care and kids club, and they let me do the kids fitness programs, and all I did was just get them to play like kickball, basketball, soccer, not football, but throw the football around, and then playing a game of tag, but not the traditional tag. The kids tag each other. I'd get a group of kids together, and all of them have to try and tag me, and that would really excite the kids, and it got them sparked to like want to come to the gym. Then they'd drag their parents to the gym. I'd tire the kids out. They'd sleep good. They'd be more well-behaved, and that's kind of like how I wiggled my way into training.
Yeah. So
But
you
it-
like learned,
I
like
just
you learned it
adapted
through
to it.
Yeah, what you were doing, which
Yeah.
is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then you probably continue to use those methods because you're like, oh, that was great.
Yep.
So that's it. That's all pedagogy is like the methods and the ways you're using to
Yeah,
get your message through.
to the
So.
person.
Yeah. So it's just fancy.
Yeah, and then the
Always
other
fancy.
one you were talking about, not viewing or people not viewing dancers as athletes. I think I've seen some amazing dancers, and they're up there on an athlete level like a gymnast. Because the
Absolutely.
flips and the acrobatic stuff they do.
But not only that, even trying to hold your leg in the air,
Yes, and
Or
the
sustained amount of
isolation.
time.
Yeah, the ISO holds they do.
the
And
feet,
like
the strength in
taking
the
a
feet.
leg up over your
Yeah.
head, standing.
So, like-
also being the
Yeah.
artist that's like cool and like looking you in your eye and then brings the leg
Yeah,
down.
I
and
gotta
you're
look
cool.
like it easy the whole entire
Yeah,
time.
and you're like
so.
actually hurting.
And then that's the thing, like dancers are artists. Like that's who we are. That's what we create. But we use an athlete to create the art that we are creating. And I think
Yeah,
over time it is like evolved to where what we're asking dancers to do is become more strenuous and more strenuous. Like we're asking you to drop kick into the splits and
yeah,
flip through the air, in a disc and then, roll on the ground. I mean, the things that dancers do with their bodies is phenomenal. And then they should train like athletes. Absolutely. Definitely be the artist. I'm not taking away from that in any way. I just feel that, coaching and training should definitely come from people who have experience and understand like how to train the body in a progressive way. So it's just preventing them from injury. So injury
Yeah.
prevention.
Yep.
And
I was gonna say, building the muscle is gonna help prevent the injury, especially if it's like an industry where people are constantly getting hurt. Football, it's a little bit different because it's like blunt force trauma.
that's kind of-
I feel with like dancing, it could be avoidable. You can't always avoid like.
I mean,
the-
we're not running around trying to tackle each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes you try to avoid the 250-pound guy, but he just gets you.
It's like, you know what? I don't like her over there.
Yeah.
You're going down. So
Just take her out in the middle of the stage,
just get her off. Like,
and then you guys all
Definitely
like,
no.
dance off.
but
Nothing happened.
I mean, we are doing things with our bodies that, we're not trying to bulldoze each other in any way, but we do a lot of lifting. So,
Yeah,
you got people basing,
kind
others
of like
throwing them in the air.
stunts and cheerleading type
It's
stuff.
very similar. I mean, I think in the dance world versus the cheer world, we try to do it a little more flowy and,
yeah,
graceful, I guess, sometimes depending on what we're doing. But
yeah.
it still requires, strength and flexibility and mobility and power,
Yeah,
discipline, and all that comes from discipline. And then a good coach is also not just going to teach you the progressions and that physical part, they're also going to help you with your mindset and teach you how to be disciplined and understand like the work ethic that has to go into that. So that's another,
Yeah.
you know, another thing that I have also found in the dance industry is lacking is like their overall health. Like and that's again goes back to them not treating themselves like athletes. They're over here with Starbucks and, you know, a donut. And then, you know, an hour into rehearsal, they're like, I don't feel good. I'm tired. You know, my head hurts. And it's like, well, you know, maybe that Starbucks and donut is not the best option. And I'm not saying, again, like I'm not trying to blanket the industry and say that none of these dancers are getting education on health or, you know, but they should all be for the most part
together.
Yeah, they just haven't been treated. The training hasn't been athletic based. It's been a little bit more aesthetically based. That's from my experience and my.
Yeah, I just have a little bit of experience myself with dance. I was on a dance team in high school and a cheer team. Cheer team went to cheer camp. That was harder than football camp for me.
I believe it.
Just the idea of like you and your partner, and my partner weighed just as much as me. So at the time I was like 155 pounds. But within one little hop, you throw them up and catch them up on your hands. And we do that a good 300 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to memorize the choreography and like move gracefully as a group, yell out your chants, do the stunts, make sure you don't drop anyone on their head. And
which we do sometimes.
Yeah.
A little bit. We don't mean to.
That's actually one of the things that got me
but that's, you know,
into cheer is like seeing a girl.
You wanted to drop people on their head?
No, I saw a girl get dropped on her head in a pep rally in the basketball court.
That's not good.
Yeah, so ambulance had to take her out and everything.
That's really bad.
And then
it's all bad.
I forget who got asked, but there were 8 football players that got asked to join the cheer team for one like rally in the quad.
Mm.
So we go out there and we kill it, throwing the girls higher than they've ever been thrown. They feel safer because we're actually catching them, and like there's no risk of us dropping them.
I don't know about that. But
Then they're like, "Hey, you guys got to come to cheer camp with us." And
so that's how you
like,
ended up becoming a cheerleader, because you were a football that went into throw dancers, and then they're like, "Hey, I mean, okay, that's kind of fun."
we did one performance in the quad, and then just the rest is history.
Smart cheer team.
Yeah. It was sweet.
I mean, that makes sense.
We went down there and we won first place when our school was normally kind of like the laughing stock of the cheerleading.
Yeah, but they got real smart and they got themselves some solid base.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who had training.
4 of us could tumble. So not only could we base, we could also tumble, memorize some choreography, and then we whooped everybody.
I mean, I think in football and other sports, you're still doing choreography. You know, when I played basketball, I still had to memorize different moves and plays. And,
I think that's way different because, like, as far as like a performance goes, it's like constant movement. In sports, you have timeouts. Specifically, football, you go 110%. Once the whistle blows, you get like 24 seconds to then reset, gather yourself, and then do it again. So it's this constant cycle.
Which is, again,
a performance is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's another interesting fact of, okay, why are all these dancers getting injured? And I watch dancers do shows where they do a 3-minute dance, they run down the hallway, they change their clothes, they're back on stage, and they dance again, and then they do that continuously, some of them for 2 hours straight.
Yeah, that's what was crazy when me and Parker showed up to the performance at the Sunrise Mall. Just seeing your daughter and how she was in one, what do you call that, like a skit or a performance? One of the...
Like a dance.
Yeah. Like one dance routine in a certain costume, and then only minutes later is she doing another routine in a different costume.
Yeah.
And this kept happening. I'm like, that's crazy, because as soon as they go backstage, they're still having to like hustle. Yep. There is no 24 seconds off. Get some water, relax.
Yeah, that's why as a small studio right now, we keep the shows limited, like to less than an hour, so that we're not exhausting them to the point where they they pass out or something. But I also work at the college and I do shows there. And dancers, like they want to just dance and they want to dance. They want to do this dance and that dance and this dance and that dance. And it's just in their blood. It's just what they want to do. And I think the hardest part is trying to explain to them, like, and I was just the same, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I didn't do a 2-hour show and try to do 20 dances. Like, I was definitely right there with them. But I also didn't know then what I know now as to, like, that is definitely not the healthiest way to go about it. It's definitely better to limit yourself. And even now at the college, we're like, okay, now you can only do so many dances. Like, we're not going to let you decide how many you're doing. We're basically going to say to you, you're only doing this. And then explain, like, it's better to do small amounts of dances and look great in them and be solid and have the endurance and the stamina than sit there for 2 hours. And by the time you get to your last 3 dances, which is what everybody's left with, you're exhausted and tired, and the audience can really see that. So there's that too.
Saw the difference as the performance went on, specifically with the 2 or 3 girls that were in the majority of them. How you could tell they were getting tired. Body language changed. Their faces still looked like they were on point, but I'm like, wait, they're looking tired.
and that goes back to also, are they being trained correctly? Are they being coached correctly? And for those particular 2, they do conditioning and training and cardiovascular training. They do strength training. So at our studio, we require it. So we do not just let them take dance classes. The focus isn't just on choreography. We have a very balanced focus. And in our core classes, within the styles and genres, those classes are technique classes. And then they're based in strength training, technique training, flexibility, mobility, giving them the proper foundation, so that when they do hit these shows and they hit the stage, they're more prepared for.
They're ready for the big show.
And there's a mindset thing too, because when you're putting the body through that much stress, like, where's your head at?
Yeah.
So it's a lot. That's why, exactly my point. Dancers put themselves through a lot. And maybe they wouldn't if there was a little more education or, understanding of, like you say in like football and other sports, it's time out, they need a rest, or, the dancers, there's nobody coming out there going, time out. Like, it's like, better keep dancing.
You mess up. Well,
show must go on. So
that just happened.
Yeah. So, and I think I'm not the only person out here who has noticed this. I do think we are trying to move into a place of like, okay. And the industry has evolved, of course, too. So. Yeah.
And will continue to.
Absolutely.
So, do you have a way to coach people through stage fright?
Are you planning on going on stage?
Honestly, if it gets my daughter to do it, yes, I will.
I feel like when it comes to stage fright, everybody's different. Like, I feel like every performer I've met has like what I call their zone. And, some performers, and this might be true for, going out before football, they don't want to talk to nobody. They don't want you to look at them. They're just like in their space.
My mom knows the best.
They're preparing themselves. Like me, I'm like a jumpy. I'm like, I gotta go dance. I gotta get it out because my adrenaline's, through the roof. And once I get that first dance out, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
That's like the first hit in football. Like, you're all jittery, and then usually it's like on kickoff or kickoff return, run down. And it's like, I just got to hit someone. Because then once you get that out of the way, then all the like butterflies and the overthinking.
I think stage fright is partly that adrenaline, like that rush of adrenaline that you get right before you go on stage, and you just don't know what to do with it. And so the best thing to do is just get rid of it. Go out there and dance it out, and then usually, like within the first minute, I could feel it like out of my system, and then all of a sudden I'm okay. Here I am. I'm good. But some people like. I do think it is important as coaches and trainers, and when we're preparing them, especially when they're young, is like getting them, is preparing their mindset as well. Like, okay, like what do we do? Or even giving them a play-by-play of, this is what you're going to expect. This is probably what's going to happen. As opposed to just throwing them out there. Okay, you're going on stage, or you're going in the game, and they're like, I'm not ready.
Yeah, mindset's huge, especially in the contact sports, like the two that I played, football and then mixed martial arts. Something that always helped me is like just the thought process of like preparing for the worst but expecting the best. Because that way, if the worst happens, which sometimes it does, you have a better like head on your shoulders compared to if like you're thinking everything to go great all the time and not ready for adversity, or like something you hear a lot now, like people talking about the heat here. It's hot, it's hot, it's hot. And then as soon as it starts getting cold, it's cold, it's cold, it's cold. I'm like, why do you have to talk about it so much? Like, could we focus on something else?
Well, it's hot and it's cold.
So it's like, yeah, we know it's going to be hot at certain times. We know it's going to be cold at certain times. But, like, what else could we focus on? And
fair.
That mindset part always helps me, right? Because you're going to football practice, and it's like, it was a long day at school already. You say you didn't eat all your lunch, and you're hungry, and you got to go run wind sprints. You got to make sure you don't get your head taken off. I would always find a way just to enjoy the suck. Like, it's tough. I want to say the hottest weather we ever had to play in was 117 degrees. Full gear. Luckily, we had a water trough where it just spits water out. You could, like, drench yourself, take your helmet off, get it all soaked. And then I would do that to just, like, beat the heat. Still got to go out there and work in the heat, which it's tough, but if you do these little things to make the suck a little bit better, that's just about
well,
all you
I
can
think
do.
stage fright's kind of the same thought process, because, I mean, if you get in your head and you worry about what could happen, like I could fall, or my hat falls off, or
Which happened in the last show.
yeah,
The
but
girl's hat
you
fell
got to
off.
prepare them. Like, and I think as a trainer and a coach, I like to be like, if it happens, it happens. Like, it is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
People fall. If you fall, hey, good for you. Like, you were dancing hard. Like, you were in it. Like, you know, and then you just, you know, hope if you're not injured, get back up and get back in there and do your
Yeah.
thing. If you're injured, then you should probably
Get that
exit
checked
the stage, you know. So, but let them know that's okay. Like, I'm not over here. I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not over here going, you know, there's no such thing as perfection, and it's art, right? So, and then our audience has no idea. You have no clue. Y'all have no idea what you're watching. You have no idea what a triple blah, blah, blah. You have no idea. You're just entertained.
Yeah.
So whether they nail that leap or turn, or that turn sequence, or whatever it is, the audience has no idea. They just are like, ooh, cool. And then as long as you just kind of keep going, and, you know, again, as long as you're not hurt, that's okay. So I think that does help with that stage fright, because then they're like, you know what, it's okay if something, all those things that they're in their head about,
That could happen.
okay, it could happen, but you know what, okay, it happens. What do you do? I fell on stage. I forgot my whole entire dance one time. I just was like, meh. And then all of a sudden it just came back, and it was almost like this space of time where I just spaced out.
Yeah.
And then, but nobody
It was all a
noticed
blur.
but me.
Yeah.
That's the only one, like, because it's probably
crazy.
technically 4 seconds, but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's just preparation
Yeah.
for, you know, trying to make sure in their head they're not, if all those things you're overthinking do happen, okay,
Yeah. If all of them happen, holy
okay,
cow.
that does kind of suck, and I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
Usually only one of them might happen every
Yeah.
once in a while.
and then again, like, it's not the end of the world. It's just part of it. Like,
Yeah.
people fall,
Part of growth.
right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, falling's great, because if you fall, you gotta learn to get up.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I encourage it, kind of, like, you know, be careful.
Yeah.
Like, falling's a good thing.
Yeah. I remember my first day of tackle football, wearing my jersey just because, like, the podcast idea is growth. And football was one of the toughest things for me to adapt to because I was 135 pounds soaking wet when I first started playing. Still don't fit this jersey that I got in high school. And I've put on, 50 pounds of muscle since then. But like one of the things was just first day of pads, go out there and we do Oklahoma drills. So they get all the guys from the team lining up on both sides of you. So they create walls. And then whether it's 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, they just go offense versus defense. 3 guys on defense, 3 guys on offense, whatever. This specific scenario, I was trying to take the running back's job who had been playing running back since Pop Warner. I come in, never playing contact football in my life, and it's mano-a-mano. He's got the ball. I got to try and take him down, and I go up, try to take him down. He runs me over, steps on my balls, and then scores a touchdown. Now I'm just like laying there like, oh, shoot.
Rethinking that decision.
What did I get myself into? Immediately switch over to wide receiver. So then the rest of my career was like smooth sailing, but figured out real quick. Some of these guys have been putting in a lot of work that I had never put in. You can't just like get in there and all of a sudden be like one of the best guys. You're going to have to put in the hard work, look like an idiot sometimes.
Absolutely.
After games, practice, you go back, self-reflect, take notes, come back, try it again, and through that trial and error and going through it, one of the books that I recently read, it's called Outliers, talks about the 10,000 hour rule, where you have to put in 10,000 hours or in like training 10,000 reps in order to be like really good at something. So that was, I didn't know that when I was a kid. I wish I did. I would have put in more reps. But yeah, it just, at a certain point it all clicked. Like, oh, I'm now something I hear a lot at the gym. You make that look easy. I'm like, well, I remember when I wasn't good at any of this.
That's actually a big issue in the dance world, and it's probably one of the biggest challenges is, you'll have people who come in who have no training whatsoever, and it's just kind of like they just want to jump into this choreography that's extremely difficult or way beyond their level, and then they don't understand, well, why, can I be in that dance? And it's like, well, because you are not trained to do that dance. And then I always go back to my sports references, like, you're not going to throw the QB out there with no experience, because what would happen? They're like, well, he might get hurt. I'm like, exactly. It isn't any different in dance. Like, we got to train, and it takes years to learn a lot of these skills that dancers have, and it is not easy.
Yeah.
So I deal with that a lot. It's
I was
actually
really amazed
a
by
tough part of it.
Even the younger kids' ability to, it's almost like they're scripting their facial expressions when they're doing their moves.
They practice that.
And yeah, I thought that was impressive as hell. Like,
That is pretty impressive.
Like, it's crazy. They're doing some crazy stuff and running around. I'd be nervous as hell, but they look cool, calm, collected. They're even smiling and giving these little head gestures. I'm like, whoa.
I mean, we call facial, like we kind of like a face off, and then we say who can outface the other people in the classroom, and then they.
So you guys go head to head and
we go head to head and just.
Oh, shoot.
And then, it's just more for fun, like, who can smile the most or, be more exciting in terms of whatever. And they love it. Like, they eat it up.
Yeah.
They're all about it. So, and it is part of the training. It's another part of the training. Like, you're not just this athlete, who can look, stressed or tense. Like, you gotta look whatever role you're trying to play. So you also have to be an actor.
Yeah.
On top of,
landing your
jumping
turns
in the air
stuff,
and rolling to the floor, like, and make it look like woohoo.
Yeah.
So there's definitely the art, and then there's, the athleticism. So, and I think as a dance instructor, and then just like I said, my experiences, there's this lack of, that knowledge and the understanding of why that's important. Like, why is it so important to have progressive training? Why do you need to do conditioning? Like, why do you need to weight train? Like, why are you doing this when you know, I just want to go dance. I said, well, okay, well, what kind of dance do you want to do? And,
Yeah.
you know, most codified dance languages have some type of structure, and you need to have mobility. So it's like you can easily twist from, you know, a side parallel position to the front and then not completely turn out your hip and dislocate your knee, just like that. And you didn't really do anything. Like, I wasn't really doing anything. I'm like, right, but you didn't have the proper training and the mobility to understand how to move your body that fast.
Yep.
And make sure that the hip was moving with the knee and the ankle. So
Yeah.
if you didn't know that, then you probably turned out your foot and the knee didn't go and the hip didn't move and then the knee went sideways and then
Yeah.
there goes your knee.
A story that just sparked me, or like brought back to the top of my mind. There's a lady that I was training. I want to say she was like 67, but we'd been training for maybe 3 to 4 years. She got in the best shape of her later life. We were doing ladder work, doing all sorts of stuff. She got in such good shape. She's like, I want to go learn a sport, and goes and plays tennis. Her first session with a tennis coach makes her a wrong pivot or something, blows out both meniscus in her legs, and then immediately comes back. We figure it out, and then we go right back into like rehabilitative training. But
Right.
It's just crazy how even with good training, you go out and you pick up a whole nother set of stuff you start working on, stuff we didn't train, but maybe she was asked to move in a certain way that just blew her knees out.
I mean, sometimes it's just going to happen no matter how much you know, sometimes the body just doesn't, could have been her shoes. Like, who knows?
All sorts of stuff.
All
Yeah.
sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But you never want it to be because you didn't get that proper training.
Yeah.
And
It was tough news. Like, after all the progress we made, then it's like, get all the way over here. Then it's like, shoot, well, now we're back over here. But she still trains with me to this day. She's been with me for, 10, 11 years?
and those injuries take people out. Like, and not just from whatever sport they're in. It could take them out from even just living whatever, you know, maybe they can't hike no more, or they can't ride a bike anymore, or, you know.
The cool thing about this one, she kept training, and we just changed how we train. That's part of, like, when you meet someone, if something's not working, you shift it.
Right.
That's kind of where I've gotten better at that, is, like, dealing with so many different personality types, goals, limitations, injuries, all that stuff. It makes you have to be flexible, and sometimes one of the biggest things when people come in is they could have had a really bad day, whether it's someone in the family died, just had a bad day at work, going through a breakup, dealing with their kids or their spouse, whatever. And I could have one thing on my mind, and they can come in and I could just tell they're off. I could spend that session talking to them more than we're actually working out. And that's like sometimes my most favorite sessions are just like getting to know the person, where sometimes they drop stuff on me that's like should be dropped on a licensed therapist, but a lot of people don't.
We're part therapists.
They don't do that, and then I take it on, try to make sure I don't like embody any of that negative energy, and then I'm like, okay, well, thank you for allowing me to have this space with you, but here's like an actual therapist, because it's crazy the type of stuff people will just pour out.
Well, working with kids, a lot of times they're not going to tell you. They just act out in different ways. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things I really noticed about teaching and working with kids. Like, I've had people who are like, you know, this particular student, it's just they don't listen, or they're, you know, they're always fidgeting, or they're this or they're that. And a lot of times they're just maybe trying to process some trauma or something that's going on at home. Yep. Sometimes they just need to move. Like, I feel like I'm a mover. I was never meant to sit down in one place for very long. So,
Well, you're doing good right now.
I am. I'm trying so hard. I'm literally glued my feet to this chair because I'm like, do not rock the chair. It's This has not been easy. But I don't know. I think sometimes when people walk through the classroom or the door, like the assumption is this person is this way or that way. And sometimes those have been my most successful students because, they just needed someone to show them a different way or, maybe take that energy and let's channel it somewhere else. Like, I think it's like being misunderstood. Like, and then if you're a teacher,
that one hits home for me.
Yeah, and if you're a teacher who's teaching math, math is great. But if you got a kid who isn't a sitter, or maybe isn't processing that, or maybe they just have no interest in it, maybe they need to be in a movement class of some type, or something that, and don't get me started on how there's no more movement in schools. Like I will go off on that too, because the lack of PE education and.
Yeah, I want to say that was my outlet, was PE, PE recess, all that stuff. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger.
Me too.
And then I was always told calm down, sit still, relax. And I'm like, that's not helping me. Half the time, all I needed was a little bit of time to get my energy out.
Right. That.
With my daughter, her mom calls it the wiggles, and now it's kind of cool being an adult, seeing her going through the same stuff. Like, oh, you just got to let them get that out of their system. Don't tell them to calm down and relax. Give them an opportunity to get the energy out, and then when they come back, they're more focused, more well-behaved.
It's kind of like proven science, too, that, when you exercise and you work out and you do movement, the muscles create proteins and, boost your serotonin. It makes you happy. It makes you more focused. So even at the college, I teach these long classes right now. It's kind of long for dance, but there's history and lecture. But we do the movement in the morning, and we get it out of the way, and we just go straight 2 hours with breaks. And then we take our lunch break, and then they come back, and that's when we do the lecture. And I feel at that point they're tired, and they're just a little bit more focused, and they've already got the wiggles out. And so for those mover people, they're kind of like, okay, now I'm ready. Actually, today they asked me for a lecture. They were like, can we do a lecture? And I'm like, really? Okay. I was like, I guess we wore ourselves out. So, but I think if I flip it the other way, I'd have a bunch of wigglers, trying to focus, and then they can't focus. So, and I think that goes back to the, adapting as a coach to like the needs of the people you're coaching. Like, okay, what do they need?
Yes. And sometimes people don't even want to do what they need the most. Like,
that's me.
Specifically when you get, well, you've been pretty game about all of it.
Except for the running part.
Yeah, that part.
I was like, what?
But yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. I was laughing at myself.
Yeah. So going back to what you were talking about with, you mentioned serotonin. There's 4 different chemicals that you can get from working out.
Oh, there's dopamine too, right?
There's EDSO is the acronym: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. So 2 of them you can get on your own. The other 2 you cannot get without interacting with other people. So endorphins and dopamine you can get on your own. The guy I learned them from calls them the selfish chemicals because you don't actually need anyone to get them. But the serotonin and oxytocin you do need. And there's 2 different ways to get oxytocin. That one's easy because it's through physical touch. So like when you're working out and you just did something big and you give your workout partner a high five or a pat on the back or a hug, whatever, when you're done with the workout and leaving, that's a way you can get oxytocin. But the serotonin, that's a really cool thing about that. Like, for example, if you're working out with someone for a long time and, their goal was to get to a certain amount of weight with a certain lift, and they finally get there, you're there cheering them on, a couple other people in the building are cheering them on, and you're actually proud of them, and then they hit that goal. When they hit the goal, and everyone's actually genuinely into the interaction and the growth and
they're celebrating it.
everything that we've been putting in
absolutely.
to get there. Anyone who witnesses it gets a shot of serotonin, and the person that actually accomplished it gets a shot of serotonin. So that's one of the coolest things about group workouts, and why that's so important, and why people are like, oh, I feel so much better in a group. It's because you're going to get the serotonin and the oxytocin from the group workouts, and you won't get them in a solo workout, which I understand sometimes you just want to be alone and not have to interact. But, there's just two separate sets of chemicals, and the serotonin and oxytocin help with depression, anxiety, all that stuff.
So I mean, in
really imperative.
essentially, movement can really help with pretty much a lot of things, and it's important. And it's important that you are with the right coach and trainer so that you're understanding all these benefits and, how to apply them.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have movement or dance. I think that's something that I've always geared to because, yes, I am that wiggly person. I was also diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, but my mom kind of told him, whatever.
I would have gotten into a lot of trouble if I didn't have sports.
Yeah, my mom put me into every sport there was.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. My parents didn't really put me into sports. Just at a certain point, I started being drawn to them, and I remember my mom having the speech with me, like Alex, this is the one thing where you don't have to slow down for anyone. You don't need to calm down. You don't need to relax. Just go. And I'm like, really? And then just did it. Like, is anything I could get my hands on. Like back in the day, like you'd go out and play, and then you don't come back till the street lights turn off.
Yeah, that was cool.
I would totally do that. I'd be gone. I'm like, I'm out.
Oh, you didn't have that?
No, I did.
Oh,
and
okay.
I would just be gone. I'm out. Like
Yeah,
as soon
me
as,
too.
As soon as I get home, like, and I had been active at school,
I came back for dinner, and then I was out.
Didn't even ever think of homework. I just like left. And if I'm not playing sports, I get home, I'm out playing in the streets.
And see, that's another thing. Like in terms of the youth, they no longer have the PE that we used to have. Like, so they don't have that movement, space. We used to like do it an hour a day. Now I believe like most schools have it 30 minutes twice a week. And then they're unfortunately at this point less mobile because we're got cell phones and all of that. Like when we were young, we had PE every day. We went outside and we never came back until we had to.
Yeah.
It was definitely a different life. So now, as adults and parents, and we got to adapt. So we have to figure out, okay.
Coming full circle to that, adapt
and then
be flexible.
Depression and all of that is at an all-time rise.
Yes.
So are we linking that to the fact that there's a lack of physical education happening because there's that lack of play happening compared to where it used to be? Could that be part of what's going on? I mean, I'm not a doctor and I'm not trying to claim anything.
I just rattled off, absolutely, if we're not doing that. But I think we could cover that a little bit more in our next episode.
Okay.
I know we're running towards the end of our session here. So do you want to give a little shout out to your studio, where to find you, and all that stuff?
Yeah, we're the Movement Studio in Fair Oaks. Our mission and our main focus is on training and progressive movement instruction. Our teachers are instructors. They're not only skilled in their profession, but they are also skilled in education and how to train the body. We also believe in fun and culture, and not only do we train the body how to move, we train the mindset and teach them how to be a team. Like, there's a whole lot that goes into it. We'll probably have to do a whole nother podcast about that too.
Yes, we'll do many more.
But the Movement Studio, Fair Oaks. Yeah.
Sweet. And then just saying it again, from Carmichael UnderGround Training. It's on 6810 Fair Oaks Boulevard, Carmichael, California. And just want to say my mission statement is to cultivate opportunity, growth, impact, and connection in the mental, physical, and spiritual communities locally and internationally. And I've been focused on doing that as much as I can, as frequently as I can. And it's pretty cool to have you coming to the gym and networking with you and seeing your passion and how you're able to affect people. Because, I definitely
We definitely need to do a podcast about that fusion and like how and then we're going to have definitely more information on like how that worked out when the workshops come. So
yes, absolutely.
Dance and fitness is coming together, and we are going to really create classes and curriculum that can take you to the next level. So we're pretty excited about that.
Whoop, whoop. All righty there. Great segment there. Alex and Julia, Underground Carmichael Training. That is episode 1. You guys look forward to episode 2 coming real soon. We'll be back at you guys, the Sackway Media Studio. Holla.
Made it.
Hey, y'all, what's